7-footer Todd MacCulloch packed a lot into a brief 4-year NBA career, including a trip to the 2001 NBA Finals with Allen Iverson. But MacCulloch is quite the personality. First, an unusual penchant for pinball.
So I just think that there's not that many games or activities you can do that really immerse you in so many of your senses that really require immediacy.
Did I mention his memory for movie lines?
Give me your favorite Austin Powers line. I love Austin Powers.
Oh, behave. Yeah, that's...
1 billion.
Or what about leaving his uncomfortable coach airline seat to continue the flight in the men's room?
And it just was not comfortable. So I thought, you know what? You know where there's more room? In the crowd.
So, take a load off. Visit with the fascinating former Sixer Todd MacCulloch next on Fresh 24.
The Sixers lock all windows and doors. Garbage into goal.
Todd MacCulloch, what was it like to have a front row seat for the Allen Iverson-Larry Brown show?
That was a fun time. It was not a lot of boring times. It was always exciting. It was... two interesting personalities that maybe saw some things a different way, but at the end of the day, two competitors that really wanted to win, really wanted to get better, really wanted to just hated to lose. And so a little bit different philosophies of how to get to the end goal. But in 2001, getting to the NBA Finals, and the last time Philly had been there, they saw eye to eye and they met on some common ground. And I think just the potency of Iverson. I think sometimes when you get a special player like Iverson, you might have to change your philosophies a little bit. I think it happened at Georgetown with John Thompson. I think he had a system, and you realize, hey, this is somebody who's special, and maybe I need to do things a little bit differently. And then I think when they saw eye to eye on that, we had some pretty good results. And I think Billy King did a great job. Putting a team together around Iverson to complement some of those special talents that he had, and it all worked pretty well for that magical year in 2001.
When they didn't see eye to eye, how did that affect the team?
I think at that point everyone's pretty professional. That everyone was just kind of trying to take care of their own business and kind of let that stuff work itself out. So I think there was always a job to do. And I think there were some times where maybe if Iverson didn't play in the odd game, I sort of would get the concept that teams would look at us and say, you guys can't win without Iverson. And I think in the long run that would have been true. But I think for a game or two, I think guys were ready to prove like, hey, Iverson is he's a huge part of this team, but we can still get the odd win in other ways. And so I think sometimes we surprise some teams, and then of course you wanted him back as soon as possible because of just how incredible a talent he was. But I think in every now and then, if we had one game where he was out with an injury, sometimes we surprised some teams that we had some guys that could get the job done.
Describe what it was like to be part of that whole show, traveling with him and all the adulation and attention that he got. What was it like for you to observe all that stuff?
It was just fun to be around. He's such a great player and such just a larger than life character, somebody that's super fun to be around. And I'd heard when I first got there that he used to hang out at Fridays, and in my head I'm like, Fridays must be like a cool nightclub or something. And then Fridays, and he was in the corner with his friends, and I had some friends from Winnipeg there, and I'm sort of new to the team, and I knew Al a little bit. We were teammates, but he's this superstar, and I'm just, Todd from Winnipeg. So I think at some point he passed our table, and I said, "Hey, Alan, I don't mean to bother you, but I just wonder if you could maybe sign an autograph for my friends or take a picture." And he's like, "Sure, I'll do that, but who are you?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Dude, I'm just messing with you. Lighten up." And I was like, so I just such a large in life personality, somebody that you wanted to be around because he was so much fun, and he just had a great sense of humor. And so if there's a chance we could go to a movie or something, and I remember jumping on the bus, and he's like, "Todd, there's stuff we can do together. We can hang out. I like movies. You like movies. Let's go to." I was like, "I would love to. I think that would be great." And so I just he was just so entertaining. I always wanted to hear what he had to say. He was just a very unique person who people want to be around, and it's not just because he's a great basketball player, because he had such good energy, and he was so much fun and hilarious. And I feel lucky to have just seen the Allen Iverson show. It was one of the funniest people I've ever known.
You mentioned Winnipeg and growing up there, and when I think about cold weather cities in Minnesota and the Dakotas and Canada, of course, I think about very short days in the winter and freezing temperatures. And yet it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the vast majority from people from cold weather cities are nice. Is that an overstatement?
No, there must be something to that. So I think.
Do you agree with me?
Oh yeah, I think Winnipeg, Minnesota, a lot of those places, just some of the nicest people I've met. And I think you have to help each other to survive. I think if you see somebody out in the cold that's freezing, I think you just have to help them out. Or if their car is stuck in the snow, it's common for people to just get out of their car and just have people just push that car out, or have shovels in their trunk, or lock de-icer in case your lock gets stuck, or you've got a cord hanging out of the front of your car where you need to plug it in. So I think there's just kind of a community and a village that we're all kind of in this together. And I think you need each other to survive. And so there's some great people in a lot of cities, but I think someone had said that Winnipeg is the coldest large city in the world. And by large city, I think their parameters were at least 500,000 people. And so I think it's very isolated. You've got this big city kind of in the middle of Manitoba, and if you wanted to go to Toronto, you're looking at a 20-something hour drive to the east. And if you wanted to go to the next big city to the west, you're looking at a 14 to 16-hour drive to Calgary or Edmonton. So you're just you're there, and so you depend on each other. And so your family is likely to grow up there and stay there. And so it's geographically, it's so far to get somewhere else major. A lot of people just stay there. And so there's, you really depend on your family. And we get a couple nice months in the summer, and either your uncle or your grandpa or somebody will have a cabin in your family, and then you all get together at the cabin and you water ski and you fish and you hang out and you play cribbage, and it's good. So I think it really builds a community. So even though it's a big city of 600,000 or 700,000 people, a lot of people have known each other for a long time. It's not a super transient city. People don't usually come and go. A lot of them are born into it, and they stay there. And so I think there's some real connections that are made. I think people really do look out for each other there.
A lot of snow shoveling in order to play basketball?
Yeah, fortunately, basketball is an indoor game. Definitely a lot of hockey being played there. So we had a couple of ponds in our neighborhood, and so someone would sweep off the snow on the pond so we could skate. But for basketball, I think playing an indoor game is great. My kids here have done some soccer in the Northwest, and it's very rainy and cold, and basketball, just being an air-conditioned gym, seemed like a very civilized choice. So I think it was a smart call to play in a gymnasium. Not too much outdoor basketball going on in Winnipeg, especially in the winter months. It should be an all-year-round game, but it's definitely an indoor game there.
So you're growing up, you're a tall kid, obviously. You're playing a sport that not many kids played, and you took some teasing, I guess, right?
For
because you were tall, and you were, I guess, you were going after a sport that not a lot of people really seem to have a passion about. I mean, clearly that's the game up there is hockey.
Yeah, but basketball's definitely coming up. But when I was growing up, basketball wasn't as popular. We didn't have any NBA teams at that time, and of course now we have the Raptors, and that sort of change things for Canada, and obviously with the success that Steve Nash did, and the pride that Canada has in him, and with the excitement that Vince Carter brought to the game with his highlights. So it was having a team in Toronto, having Nash doing so well, and having Vince Carter that really sort of changed the game for the country. And now there's, a few years ago I looked, and I think Canada was the second most represented in the NBA after the United States. But back then, I think I'm still the only Manitoban to be drafted into the NBA. So Manitoba is not necessarily a basketball hotbed. Lots of talent. There's been some really good players over the years that have gone on to play on the Canadian national team and play in Europe. But I think a lot of the NBA talent kind of comes out of Ontario, and it seems maybe British Columbia. It was a game that worked for me. I played hockey, and then I played soccer, and I played volleyball and badminton and all these things. But all of the athleticism, when you just continue to grow and you top out at 7 feet, all of those things that prepared me sort of triangulated with basketball, just being able to run and having a nice touch that may have been developed from juggling and being a part of juggling club and having coordination, and often big men aren't known for being able to catch the ball, and that was something that I could do. And it turns out that the ability as a big man to catch the ball and finish can take you a long way, even if you're not the best passer, even if you're not the best defender, if you're not the best ball handler. If you some people like myself, it was best to stay in the lane and maybe not be flashy, but just be efficient and not really get bored with at the bottom of the line. It's a little bit like golf. It doesn't matter how the ball gets in the cup. It's just a matter of strokes. And so it didn't matter that I wasn't having thunderous drunks and having a bunch of highlights. I could catch the ball, put the ball in the basket. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't great, but it was effective. And so I just I kind of did what came naturally and worked for that.
So to that end, Allen Iverson described you as the guy who has no bones in his hands because you were so good at catching the ball. And I would imagine that he made you that much better with his ability to penetrate. All you had to do was find the open spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a big man, spacing is really important. And that's something that I guess you can kind of teach, but basketball is so improvisational. You kind of have to get a sense of how you get open. How much spacing do you need? You don't want to have too much space between you and the passer, otherwise someone's going to step in the passing lane and take it. You don't want to be right next to Iverson if he's handing you the ball. You need to have a little bit of space. You need some time to catch the ball. So, something I know with Allen, I never wanted to drop any of his passes. I wanted him to trust me to catch it, and I was really focused on if I drop this, I don't know when the next one's coming, so I'm going to be ready. And I said I'm never going to look up and go for the rebound until I see it leave his hand. I am going to be ready till the last second. He had such good airtime and was so creative. He had all the time in the world to make up his mind how to get the ball on the back glass, and had long arms and a whole career of knowing how to score on bigger people. So it was rare that he couldn't get a shot off, but he was smart enough to know, if I'm not going to get this off, now I've got a little bit of hang time left, let me find someone. So instead of me standing there waiting for the rebound, I waited until if he came down with it, I was available to catch it. And by this time, if I have a defender on me, you're not staying with Todd MacCulloch. You're going to go and challenge Iverson. And so I would be standing there either wide open for the pass or wide open for a rebound. So Iverson was such an accurate shooter, and he had such a nice touch around the rim with the spins and being able to deaden the ball on the back glass, that if he missed, it was such a minor miss that if you were standing right next to the hoop and my man had left me to go help on Iverson, I'm standing there wide open for a very easy rebound, because if he missed, it was not by very much. So it was a joy to play with him. He took so much attention, and my guy would leave me routinely, and I'd be standing there wide open. And I had a coach in high school tell me, you're doing well in high school. Sometimes you're getting triple teamed. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do in college when teams aren't going to be able to triple team you. And in the NBA, I never required a double team. So if I have one guy on me and he leaves to go take Iverson, I'm standing there wide open, and I could do what I did best, and that was find an open space and sort of get an offensive rebound and go back up with it. So the game got simpler in some ways because of Allen's ability to penetrate and get by his man and really create opportunities where the defense would collapse on him, and he would often score on 2 or 3 guys, because his whole life, he would be getting by whoever's in front of him and seeing the help come and still being able to score on a couple of guys. So it was pretty remarkable to have a front row seat to see that ball going through the hoop.
So you defy all the odds, Todd, a native of Manitoba, Canada. You make it into the NBA, a second-round pick after a career at the University of Washington. You signed a nice free agent contract after being drafted by the Sixers with the then New Jersey Nets. You get traded back to the Sixers, ostensibly for Dikembe Mutombo. And then after 4 seasons, your career is cut short. Something I know that you've been asked about many, many, many times, but indulge me here. Tell those who may not be that familiar with you and your career, why is that you only played 4 years in the NBA?
I just started to have some foot problems when I was in New Jersey, and then we went to the finals and lost 4 straight to the Lakers, and I think the Nets were probably thinking if they were going to go back to the finals, they might need to bolster the center position a little bit, and I think they felt that Dikembe was gonna fit that mold, being a former Defensive Player of the Year and a very great shot blocker and rebounder and all around great player and great guy. So they made that trade, and some of those foot problems that I was having sort of continued, and so it was a real struggle right from training camp on, and I guess I just thought it was going to be a tough year, and I was going to have to power through it, and then get to the off season, and then maybe have a chance to heal. But it became pretty evident that got about halfway through the season. I think maybe played 41 games, and my last game was against Minnesota, and there was just something wrong with my feet, something I couldn't understand, something I couldn't figure out. I didn't know why it was happening, didn't know how to fix it. And I just remember, I think I was an outlet. Aaron McKee had the ball out of bounds. I'm pretty sure it was against Minnesota. And we had no options. And so I was just kind of a release, and I wasn't being, guarded closely at the 3-point line. So Aaron threw it to me, and it should have been an easy sidestep to my left to catch it. And my feet they weren't responding to what I was telling them to do. And I couldn't move. I couldn't get to it. And the ball ended up being a backcourt violation. And Aaron kind of looked at me like, why didn't you go get it? And I really didn't have an answer for him. I was telling my feet what to do, and they weren't responding. And so it was a difficult time. It was a confusing time. Saw a lot of neurologists trying to figure out, what was wrong and how reversible is it, and when can I get back to being the player that I was, and how do I fix this? And unfortunately, with nerve things, it's a difficult thing to diagnose. It's a difficult thing to treat. It's a difficult thing to reverse and improve. So it was a very challenging time too. I was just starting to get my confidence. When I was a freshman, I wasn't sure I was going to be good enough to make varsity. And then when I started playing, some of the local universities in Winnipeg were recruiting me, and I thought, well, why do they want me? I'll never play at college. I've seen those guys. They're men. I'm a boy, and I can't play at that level. And so I've always wondered how I could play at the next level, and the NBA was no different. At some point in my college career, I realized I could play at the college level, and I could help my team win, but I thought the NBA was going to be unattainable. And then I fortunately made it to the Sixers, had a smaller role, and then I never thought I could be a starter. Ended up as a starter in New Jersey and built up my confidence there. And so all of a sudden now I come back to Philadelphia confident that I could be a starter, that I could be on a team that makes it to the NBA Finals and play significant minutes and play a role. And all of a sudden, my body is failing me. And so now that I've got the confidence part going, the physical part isn't going along with that. So it was a very confusing time. It was a frustrating time when I really felt like things were coming together, and I was learning to shoot the ball a little bit, extending my range a little bit, and just becoming a little bit more dangerous in terms of how far out I would be comfortable. And it all just kind of fell apart, and then it was sort of over before it began. So I'm happy that I got to play in the NBA at all, that I got to be on the Sixers and the Nets, that I got to make it to the finals twice. But I wish that I could have had a 12-year career, that I could have had more experiences, more time with teammates, more stories, all of those things. But I didn't get to control the narrative of how the career came to an end. But I am glad that the 4 years I spent were good years with people I really enjoyed, coaches I enjoyed, teammates I enjoyed, and success. And I think that makes going to work every day that much more fun when you're winning a lot more games than you're losing, and you're giving yourselves a chance every night.
Check out our friends over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation. PHL Sports Nation. enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience.
If you will, and this is the purpose of this question is to hopefully inspire others who have hurdles and issues that they have to tackle in their lives. It wasn't an easy thing for you to deal with early on, yet you seem at peace now and thankful for what it is that you did have in terms of your career. What did you learn from going through that, and what can you tell others?
I think I just learned to be thankful for everything that I had, and in that case, partly what I was thankful for was an organization that cared about me, and so it was very hard to go from being in a job that I loved and the franchise that I loved to just being done and unable to be a part of the team and play. Except, the Sixers kind of threw me a lifeline and offered me an opportunity to work with Tom McGinnis on the radio. And so all of a sudden I go from thinking that I'm not going to be affiliated with the 76ers anymore, a franchise that I loved, that had always been great to me. And now they offered me an olive branch to stay a part of the family. And so it's hard enough to not be able to play in the NBA, but to lose that family would have been devastating. And so they offered me a chance to stay a part of the family. And so I think that saved me in a sense, that I got to be a Sixer for another 5 years, and I got to travel with you guys, and I got to become a part of the broadcasting family, and I got to stay, in essence, teammates with the players that knew me as a teammate. So it was like I added a new family. And so it kind of took my focus away from, thinking about my own situation, and sort of made me think about other people and what they might be dealing with, and how to carry on and look at the things I had going. I had, other than my foot problems, I had my health. I have a wonderful wife, and ended up having a couple of children, and just being thankful for those opportunities to be so many blessings. So instead of focusing on the thing that I can't control, that's taken away my ability to play professional basketball, think about all the other things in my life that are worthwhile and valuable to me, and those relationships and friendships, and trying to be the best husband I could be and the best father I could be. And I think when you have kids, your priorities really change. It's not okay to just feel pity for yourself and your situation. You got other people to care for. So even if my feet hurt me, I had to get out of bed and help get them ready for school, and be the best dad I could, and try and get myself out of that headspace where I'm down or depressed and sad about not being able to do the best job in the world.
So sometime after you retired, we were doing a Sixers game in Seattle when they still had the team before it moved to Oklahoma City. And I remember visiting you at your home at Bainbridge Island. And when I first arrived, I thought you actually had two homes, or at least a large home and a small guest house. And then I soon came to realize that guest house was filled with predominantly pinball machines. There were other, we'll call them museum pieces. I remember seeing, I thought it was like a Ford Mustang on a lift. I mean, you talk about a man cave. This was a man mansion. Describe what it is that you have on your property and why you are so huge about pinball.
Yeah, that's a good question. We call it the coda, and it was my father-in-law. I think a coda is a musical term for maybe a final piece, and that thing that really crowns things. So the house was being built in 2003, and that external detached garage was not really a part of the original construction, but we really liked the property, had a little bit of room to expand, so reached out to him, and so he and their company were able to build something very similar to the house in the same sort of facade and the same materials. And this pinball collecting had kind of gotten out of control, and I needed some more space, and ultimately ended up getting rid of the Ford Mustang. And ironically, Stern Pinball had just released a Ford Mustang themed pinball machine. So sold the car, bought the Ford pinball machine, the Mustang pinball machine. And pinball is a little bit like music and albums. If you collect vinyl, it's a matter of space. Obviously, vinyl, you can fit a whole lot more records on the shelf in a box, so pinball does take up more room. But each one is unique, and you can really never have enough albums of bands. You never really hit your limit of like I'm not open to another band or another song. There's always room in your mind for that. And so these designers of pinball machines, they're taking different movies and TV shows and rock bands, and I like all those movies, and I like all those TV shows and all those bands, and then to create it, just design something in this medium that's unlike anything else. I feel like it hits you on all five senses. Obviously you've got the feeling of touch, and you've got the sight and seeing the sounds, and then you hear the sounds and you hear the music and the sound effects. And I would argue that maybe there's the you can smell the fear in your opponent, and you can taste victory in a tournament. So I just think that there's not that many games or activities you can do that really immerse you in so many of your senses that really require immediacy. I mean, if you're playing a video game and somebody calls, you can hit pause, you can go get a sandwich, and you can come back to it whenever. In pinball, when that ball is live, nothing else exists, and you can really tune out, and it takes all of your mental capacity to focus on that. And I think that can be a healthy distraction, particularly if other people share that similar interest, and it becomes a social activity. And so there's so many facets of it, and I'm super addicted to it. And it's fun to get new people involved. So I'm slowly trying to convert Bainbridge Island to being a ball island. So I'm trying to get my friends to buy machines, and we're playing in some tournaments and trying to increase exposure. I've got some guys coming over here in a couple weeks, just as kind of an introductory, like, hey, this is something I'm into. Maybe you would like it too. And sometimes I see a light go off, and they're like, I had no idea that this is a skill game that you could improve. So I think there's more similarities to basketball than you might think about. Here's a ball, and instead of always shooting it into the same hoop in the same place, you're trying to shoot it into different hoops in different places at different times when they're lit up. And so there's an ability to get better on your accuracy for that. There's the ability to pass the ball between flipper to flipper. There's defense. If you miss and you make a mistake and the ball's about to go through the center or the sides, there's things you can do to try and stop that. So I think there's some similarities to basketball, and I'm looking to fill that hole of competitiveness that I don't have with basketball anymore. And pinball kind of fills that in a fun way. Whereas if things don't go my way, that's okay. We're still having a good time.
Aren't you nationally ranked or world ranked?
I've been ranked as high as 85th in the world. That's the highest I ever got to. I think the rankings are around 80 or 90,000 people in the world in about 40 different countries. So in the past, I was top 100. I think I've really been sliding. So I think I might be, last time I checked, maybe 3,500th out of 90,000. So I've been slipping. We did host the World Championships here on Bainbridge Island in 2012. And that was not necessarily the 64 top players. But I think at the time I was ranked 105th in the world, and I got my butt kicked. I qualified for the round robin, and the true winners in that, I did not make it into. If you advance through the first round, first day and a half of group play, then you enter into an NCAA bracket where the top 32 battle it out, 1 versus 32, 2 versus 31. I would have liked to advance to that stage, but in essence, I didn't make the cut. And then it was time, since I was hosting, it was time to go to Safeway and get more burgers and take out the recycling and do all these things that other people were taking care of when I was a competitor. But when I was ousted, it was time to go to work and make for a better experience for the other people. So I have gotten some good feedback from some of the players that were here. They really enjoyed the weekend. It was just kind of it was very surreal to look down the list of these 64 names. Pinball has been a small community. It's a growing community, which is great. But I instantly recognized 50 of these names from all around the world as people that I met and knew and had met at other conventions. And I felt a huge responsibility to show them a good weekend and host. And, a friend of mine from college worked for a beer distributor, so he had 20 cases of beer donated. So if you were 21, have as much beer as you want. If you want to drink Slurpees, have at it. And I tried to have some good local barbecue so people ate well. And the guys who run the tournament, they said, look, at the end of the day, there's 64 players. there's going to be only one winner. So how do we make a good experience for the other 63 that don't win? Mathematically, there's only going to be one person that's super happy. And I took that as a challenge. I want to make sure that if these people are coming from Japan and Australia, New Zealand and England and Spain, I want them to be glad that they came. And the feedback I've gotten is that we did a good job, and people did enjoy the weekend, despite there only being one champion at the end of it.
Can you make money at that?
I certainly didn't.
Are there people who actually make money being professional pinball players?
If I had to put a number on it, I would think the best player would maybe clear $30,000-$40,000 a year in tournaments. The prize money is going up a little bit. A couple of years ago, the biggest single prize in pinball was a $15,000 grand prize. Unfortunately, that COVID sort of killed that organization. There's another big tournament that came up, and I think the grand prize there was $15,000. So there's full of tournaments, but I don't think that anybody's pro exclusively where people just play pinball. I think it's a lot of on the weekends people have their day jobs, and then they sort of moonlight as pinball players and maybe supplement their income with some prize winnings that usually goes into buying more pinball machines. So I don't think anyone is like exclusively pro. But the industry is growing, the numbers of people are growing, and hopefully the prize money will be as well. But as of right now, it's just kind of a fun thing, and I kind of like that the money doesn't, the egos are kept pretty well in check. Nobody seems to have a massive ego. I think I won $50 at one tournament, but I had to use some of that money to engrave the trophy, so that came out of my prize money. So they said, don't make it look crappy and cheap, because we expect it to look good, but don't spend all the money. I think I won $20 at one place, but it was downtown. It cost me $25 to park. So it's definitely it's not a huge moneymaker, but it's certainly worthwhile. I think $3,000 is my best take as a take home from. It's not a bad deal for a weekend of pinball.
You mentioned Slurpees before. Is that still your thing? Consuming large quantities?
Not for the last couple of years. I've been trying to, not necessarily get back to my playing weight, but trying to make some better choices about sugar consumption. And Slurpees are basically 100% sugar. So I thought I'd leave the Slurpee machine off for a little while, and that seems to be working. And so I'm inching closer to reaching some of my goals. But I think Slurpees are going to have to be a little more of a treat rather than something common. But I still like them. Winnipeg is the home of the Slurpee. We sell more per capita than any other city in North America or the world. So it's sort of this cultural beverage after practice. Let's go get a Slurpee. Hang out with your friends, get a Slurpee. And it was just a part of being a Winnipegger. And but I've kept the machine off for a couple of years. And I think when I get back to closer to my playing weight, maybe I'll call the technician and get it up and serviced again and have it be a treat. But I think my kids have been asking me, when can we get the Slurpee machine back? And I kept telling them, it's not a kid's drink, it's a grown-up drink. And they're like, no, that's crazy. It's a kid's drink. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. So I'm trying to limit the sugar a little bit.
So as we spoke about earlier, you're playing golf. We talked a lot about pinball. You're avoiding Slurpees. You have a 14-year-old daughter, Carmen, who's 6'2" and plays volleyball. And your 12-year-old son plays hoops. What else are you doing?
Swimming about 5 days a week. So that's something that I can do just to try and stay in shape or get back into shape, and kind of takes the load off. Playing a little bit of pickleball, which I don't know if you knew that, but it was invented here on Bainbridge Island in 1965. So there's a real sense of community and ownership here, where this is where it originated, and some of the people on the island know the original court and know the people that started it. So that's a growing community. My wife has kind of gotten into that. So spend a lot of time with the kids, getting them ready for school and dropping them off, going to the pool, swimming, getting a workout.
Wait, let me stop you for a second. I'm trying to imagine, as an opponent, you stepping onto a pickleball court.
Yeah, it's
if I'm playing you, it's like, how am I supposed to score a point against this guy?
That's the whole point. I grew up playing table growing up, and then in junior high, I was a badminton champion. So I've had some experience with racket sports and quick hands. So I think people are a little bit surprised at maybe my ability. If they didn't know that I was a professional athlete, I step on the court. One of the shots in pickleball is lobbing it over your opponent and sending them to the back line. And I usually just smash those down, and they're like, okay, so we can't lob on Todd. So I have had some feedback from some people that I've played, with in doubles and against. And one of them said, I like playing with you much better when you're on my side. So please, let's stay as partners. So got some nice compliments that people that like to have me on their side, I can rush the net, just stay short of the kitchen and not be in the kitchen zone, and just my reach is helpful. And I think my time in badminton and ping pong are helping me. So I'm trying to get better, and there's a really thriving community here of pickleballers here. It's a pretty addictive game, and I can see why it's one of the fastest growing participation games in the country.
Todd, tell me about whirly ball.
Whirly ball is a very unique game. I don't know if it was invented in the 70s. There's one here in the state of Washington. I think it got its origin in 1984, 1986, somewhere around there. It's a very unique game that most people don't know about, but they should know about it. It's imagine basketball mixed with lacrosse, but everyone's in a bumper car. So picture a court, kind of like an ice rink, but you go into a car, 5 yellow cars, 5 red cars, buckle up, grab a trackball, kind of like, almost like a lacrosse stick with no shaft, and a wiffle ball, steer with one hand and shoot with the other. And so, the red team is shooting at a red backboard, trying to get this ball through a circle. Instead of a basketball rim with a rim in front of it, imagine if the rim was just cut out of the backboard and you just had to shoot this ball through it. And you're trying to shoot, and people are bumping into you and T-boning you, and there's lots of laughing, and it's a great way to bring people together. It's a great thing for birthday parties. It's a great thing for team building. It's a great thing for team parties, all ages. I think you have to be maybe 8 years old up to 80 or more. And if you can just drive a bumper car, you can play. Even if you're a horrible shot, you can just play defense and crush people. And it's just something. It's a very unique game that I was exposed to at a pinball convention. And I looked it up and found that there was one in the state of Washington. So that's where I had my birthday. And I just invite some college teammates and some college friends and pinball friends. A couple of guys came down from Vancouver, and a buddy flew in from LA. So it's a way to bring people together. And I think in these times there aren't enough things on the calendar, reasons for us to celebrate and be silly. So even though it's a silly game on paper, everyone has a good time, and then people come away with new friendships and relationships, and it's something that you can put on the calendar and say, hey, we're going to get together and we're going to celebrate. And so I love sort of creating that environment to have people kind of forget their worries for a couple hours and just focus on putting that ball through a basket, and it's mindless fun. And I think it helps people's state of mind to be together in a game that is silly, but in the moment it seems really important to win because there's a scoreboard and someone's keeping score. And then when the buzzer goes, go into the lobby, hang out, and then jump on the court a few minutes later and do it all again.
Todd, I remember you did movie reviews for a little while. You're definitely one of those guys who remembers movie lines, right? I mean, you probably have like 1,000 movies and movie lines that you remember. Am I right?
I got a lot of Billy Madison lines and Happy Gilmore lines, a lot of Sandler stuff, and some Caddyshack and some Austin Powers. Yes, a lot of those goofy. Comedies. Got a friend here on Bainbridge who's a filmmaker, and so he's really involved in the industry. So it's been really fun to see the world through his eyes and talk to him about, what's coming and some of that behind the scenes stuff. And during COVID, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm literally not doing anything." He's, "What are you doing tomorrow?" "Nothing." He's like, I'm making a little short movie, and I'm wondering if you want to come over and put on a gas mask and a knife and chase my kids around for this movie I'm making. I played Gas Mask Man in a movie called Isolation. That's kind of an anthology of 8 different filmmakers making a short film on this theoretic on a different sort of a virus. And it was an interesting snapshot in time. It was all filmed during lockdown. So it was maybe 8 cities around the world in towns and cities that were on lockdown. And so you got some really interesting shots of some really quiet places, including Bainbridge Island. And so now if you go to IMDb, Todd MacCulloch is a Canadian-born actor, best known for his role in Isolation. So I have about 30 screen time, so got to go down to LA and in one of the smaller part of the Chinese Man's Theater and be part of a Scream Fest. So it got Anyway, that was a really cool experience. I was paid in Chick-fil-A at the airport when we flew down.
Give me your favorite Austin Powers line. I love Austin Powers.
Oh, behave. Yeah, that's
$1 billion.
$3 million is not a lot of money. Throw me a friend. Been frozen for 30 years. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. Ribs. Ooh, frisky are we?
One question, just an oddity here. I imagine it can't be easy. You got to be first class as a 7-footer in a commercial airliner. What is this that I read about you on airplane trips spending an inordinate amount of times in airplane bathrooms?
Well, I don't like to go first class, even though I probably should because I need the room. It just seems like if they're going to charge you that much more, I'd rather just stand up for the flight or sit down. It just seems like a waste of money. So I, most of the time for most of my life, I'll do coach, and some of the seats are more uncomfortable than others. And I was with a buddy, and we were in a pinball tournament in the East Coast, and we stayed up too late, and we may have consumed too much alcohol, and I just didn't get a lot of rest during that pinball weekend, late nights, and I was just a little exhausted. So sitting in my seat, and I may have been a little wider then, and the armrests were fixed, and so there just wasn't enough room for me to sit there comfortably. So I'm starting to lose feeling in my buttocks, and it just was not comfortable. So I thought, you know what? You know where there's more room? In the crapper. There's more room. So I'm going to go back there. I'm going to put the toilet seat down, and I'm going to sit, and there's just more room and I'm just going to let them breathe a little bit. Now, it's probably illegal to lock yourself in the bathroom and just hog it. That's rude. I'm Canadian. Do that. And there's 2 bathrooms. So what do? What's my solution? I leave the door ajar and unlocked. So the door is unlocked and it's just resting. So people would open the door. They would see me sitting there fully clothed, sitting on the toilet seat down with the cover down and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I'd say, nope, you're not disturbing me. And I would get up and I would let them do their business. And then I would assume and sit down till the next person would open it up. So everyone thinks they're walking in on me, but I'm really just like this way. I'm not keeping anyone from anything. And I'm just using it when it's not occupied. Well, I was really tired. And there was a time when no one was really needing the bathroom. So no one opened up the door. So I put my head in my hands. And I got it off. And so now when people open up the door, I don't know that they are. And so now the line is 20 people deep for the other bathroom because I'm in that one asleep. And so my friend who I was traveling with, he gets up from the movie and he knows I haven't come back to the seat. So he refuses to wait in this line. He's like, no, I'm not waiting in this line. My stupid friend is asleep. Wake him up. And she's like, what? Wake him up. I'm not waiting in this line. So she knocks on the door, and she's like, hi. And I'm like, oh, hi, I may have not off. She's like, yeah, I think you did. And she's like, I think you should go back to your seat. And I'm like, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back to my seat. She's like, that'd be a good idea. And I was like, okay, sorry, everyone. And I had to walk by these 20 people that had waited there because I had fallen asleep in the bathroom. So my goal the next tournament was don't fall asleep in the crapper, or maybe get an exit row seat or a bulkhead seat. So that only happened one time. I hit a new low at 30,000 feet. So that was a little embarrassing. So I have to just slap myself when I go in there and make sure I don't fall asleep because that's not cool. That was just me.
Couple more things, and you're making me laugh here. Another guy who makes me laugh is Dave Chappelle, and being a white player in the NBA actually got you mentioned in a Dave Chappelle skit that was back in 2003. Here it is.
In sports, the Philadelphia 76ers took on the New York Knicks. But since none of the black players showed up, Todd MacCulloch ended up playing one-on-one with Travis Knight. MacCulloch had 75 points, beating Knight by 7. After the game, MacCulloch said that he was hurt that none of the black players showed up, but upbeat because he, quote, finally feels like he has a big penis. Welcome to the club, buddy. The Big Penis Club.
What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I don't know if you know the whole story. Do you know the whole story?
That's why I'm here.
You got a minute?
I got an hour.
Okay, my friend Craig Gass is a very funny. He used to be a Seattle comedian, and now he's moved to New York City. I love him, love his act. Watched him a lot, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're with the Sixers. I see you guys are playing the Knicks on Wednesday night. You're coming up Tuesday night. I got some time at the Boston Comedy Club in Greenwich Village. I would love for you and any of your teammates to come see me perform. Let anyone on the team know. I'll hook you guys up." And I got, myself and my wife, Jana, and Pepe Sanchez and his girlfriend at the time. And we decided to go watch Craig Gass perform. And he said, let's do some dinner before. So we go to dinner. And I've seen his act. I think he's a wonderful comedian, wonderful guy, great impressionist and an impersonator. So I said, I'm telling him to do my favorite parts of his bit. So I'm like, do your Yoda. And he's like, strong you are. The force is strong in you. And I'm like, do your Sean Connery. He's like, yes. Are you ready for this? Okay. I can't do it, right? But he would do it. And he's cracking us up at dinner and got all these great little bits. He's like, okay, we got to go. I'm about to get on stage. So we jump in a cab, we go across town, and we go into this comedy club, and there is a woman up on stage, and there are just two people in the audience. There's no atmosphere, there's no energy, there's no laughter. And me and Pepe walk in, and I guess we just look like nobody's. And the woman on stage is just wrapping up her set, and she's like, okay, what else is going on? The Knicks are going to kill the Sixers tomorrow night. And the owner of the club goes, did you know these guys play for the Sixers? And she goes, no, didn't know that. That's my time. Good night. And so she leaves the stage. Craig Gass is due up next, and I think he's feeling bad that he's promised us this great night. We didn't, this wasn't coming for us. We were having a great time. But I think he felt like, that he had maybe built it up. And so he's like, I can't go on stage right now. I need to smoke. I'm stressed out. I'm sorry. I need to smoke. So we're just sitting there. And so he goes outside and he's smoking a cigarette. And the car that's parked out front rolls down the window and says, hey, can I get a light? And Craig says, sure. It turns out it's Dave Chappelle. And I don't know if those two knew each other and they were already friends or if that's when they met. But I know Craig said, hey, Dave, I don't know what you're up to, but I have a couple friends in there, play for the Sixers. I promised them a night of comedy. Will you please bail me out and do something? He's like, yeah, sure. Let me finish my cigarette. I'll be right in. So Dave Chappelle comes in and does 45 minutes of comedy for me and Pepe and Jana and Pepe's girlfriend and this other couple. And he was incredible, as he is. And it was just turned out to be this incredible night. So he and Craig became friends, and Dave Chappelle, told Craig, Todd, I got a show coming out next year. I'm going to write a skit. I'm going to involve him in it. And so that's how that whole thing came about. So that's the long story of New York City, and you never know who you're going to run into, and you never know where the night's going to take you. Just to be open. So Craig ended up thinking he had blown the night, and it ended up being a very, very memorable night for all of us that got to see kind of a personal comedy show by Chappelle.
Wow, it was worth the time. My friend, thank you so much. Keep on keeping on. I hope the next pinball tournament is kind to you. Enjoy raising your family, and thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Marc. I really appreciate this time with you.